When does it rain money? When there's change in the weather forecast. What's going on, YouTube? Today we're going to be recording a video with a red dot sight on our forehead because we're going to be talking about guild traders in the Elder Scrolls Online. One of the most contentious things that you can discuss. ESO's hidden PvP game mode that a lot of people participate in, but they don't truly know how rugged it is. And we're going to break it all down in today's video. And let's give a quick overview on what a guild trader is. If you're new, a guild trader is a standing merchant that each guild bids on and then can utilize. So if you're a member of this guild, essentially, it is an open world flea market that essentially you guys inside the guild, and this is mine, so I can list items here. You can see I can list these boots of air for 8,000 gold, and then confirm them, throw them up, and then you'll see that the listing fee, that goes to the developers, those little scummy lords, and then the house cut goes back to the guild. So the guild actually makes money by selling items every time one sells. I confirm it, it goes up, and then essentially my flea market tent is open, my car boot sale is ready to go, my yard sale is here. Anybody that comes inside of Craglorn can see our guild trader right here, along with everybody else. As you can see that as we record this video, people are bipping and bopping around, taking a look at things, seeing what people have to sell here, and then moving on and going back with their day. And how you get one is relatively straightforward. You just bid on them, and then the highest bidder wins. Everybody else that lost is refunded. It's exceptionally straightforward, but that's kind of where the problems start to arise, because these are weekly guild traders, which means that you only get 7 days to sell your items through your guild trader, because every Tuesday it will reset at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and at that point, all of that money of the winning bids is taken out of the ESO economy. The developers did that intentionally to prevent hyperinflation that you see on games such as RuneScape, where when I used to play RuneScape, a couple 100,000 gold was a lot. Now people are selling items for billions of gold because the value has continually gone up. Guild traders are a way that the people who bid on them, that money of the winning bids is taken out of the economy. And we'll talk a little bit about how valuable these guild traders are later. But essentially, hundreds of millions, if not billions of gold are removed from the economy every week through these guild traders. And so if you want to place those bids, it actually tells you here exactly how it works. Note, you can bid on up to 10 traders per guild in a week. However, you can only win one based on your highest winning bid, and if there are multiple winning bids of the same amount, the earliest one wins. All other bids will be refunded, and then if you lose any of those, you also get refunded as well. So the key takeaway here is that the one that you put the most gold on, if you win that one, you're going to get it. And if you're like me, when you bid similar amounts, you just want to make sure that you're still prioritizing them in order of which ones you want to get if you were to get a guild trader. For example, if you plan to get a guild trader that's, let's say, 1,000,000 gold in value, but you really like one spot over another, you want to make sure that you're not bidding equal amounts on those, or if you are, that you make sure that you're going in order by bidding in the first place that you want to get, and then the second place that you want to get, and then the third place that you want to get. It's very technical, but once you start doing it, it's relatively straightforward, and then from there, obviously, it just becomes easy. Then you now have a guild trader for a week. Everybody can list their items up in here. Importantly, though, too, you can list items from a bank. Talk to any banker, and go down to guild store, and you can see it's as if you're at the trader right then and there. And you can see that we had quite a few things sell, and we need to list up some of our items again through these guild traders. But shockingly, a lot of you did not know that, and I've seen it quite a few times in comments. People think that you have to walk to each guild trader, list up items there. Please don't do that. Go to any bank. I guarantee you there's generally a bank that's close by to you, and even if there isn't, it's better to list all of your items at once at a banker versus walking to each of the guild traders individually. Next thing I wanted to talk about is location. So we obviously are in Craglorn this week, but that's not the creme de la creme. The creme de la creme will always be places such as Mournhold. It will always be places such as Vivek City, which always sees tons of foot traffic. It will always be places like over here in Wayrest, and it will always be places such as Gratwood inside of Elden Root. Now, Why is that? Because a lot of people think that we've just arbitrarily created these as the best guild trader locations. And to be completely honest, we have. But how did they end up as being such good trader locations? Because that kind of goes into which guild traders are worth more. And I'll give you a second to type in the comments below. Why do you think the capital cities and places like Vivek are some of the best guild traders, even places like Craglorn? And the answer is because these are capital cities. Very important things are here, such as the Undaunted Enclave, all of the shrines that you would need to go to, the RIT voucher vendors, the fact that the Way Shrine literally leads to all these traders right here in a circle. All of these things lead to these traders being worth more. You naturally want to have a guild trader that has a lot of foot traffic, ideally also that's not in a DLC zone, which Vivek City is no longer in a DLC zone, because you want to have lots of players coming in and around. And then after a while, a lot of these cities and towns have basically become known as these trade hubs, and therefore they've grown into these identities that this is the creme de la creme spot to go to. And so because of that, we've put the most value on these guild trader locations, and people also now associate these locations with being the most valuable places to go, and generally the places that you should start price checking items. It's the place that you should go if you're interested in selling items. And because that title has stuck, that's just essentially the self-fulfilling prophecy, baby. That's what it's happened and turned into. But an interesting phenomenon is also created because of this standard, which is where we all know where the best guild trader locations are, but we also generally know where the worst ones are, such as places like refuges. And I did bring Isabel in here. I'm sorry. She became slightly annoyed when I did that. Don't bring Isabel into the Thieves' Refuge. You'll notice that every single refuge in the entirety of the game has a guild trader inside of it. But fascinatingly, these actually get a good amount of foot traffic even compared to some of their overland brethren. Why is that? Well, to put it simply, people go to these places expecting a deal. It's a bit like going to an actual flea market or a car boot sale, or going to a Kmart if you can find one, or a Sears, or some other bargain bin place, is because you're expecting to find a deal in these locations. So a lot of times people will either A, go to More and Hold because they want to find something juicy, they want to get something quick, they just want to be over and done with, and they know that the prices are very stable there, so whatever price they see as the cheapest in that moment is probably fair, applicable, and usable based on their budget. People go to Thieves' Refuges because people that are in Thieves' Refuges, traders, generally vastly undervalue certain things, and because of that, it's great for item flipping, it's great to find amazing deals for specific things, and it's just overall, it's a bit like going to a lottery. So it does create this very interesting phenomenon where the best guild traders get a lot of foot traffic, but also sometimes the worst guild traders get quite a bit of foot traffic, but for very different reasons. And it's very important to visualize that concept as you think about it for your guild if you're interested in getting into this foray, because the people who are going to these Thieves' Refuges are not going to think to themselves, oh, well, this Kuda is listed 200 gold cheaper than it normally is. Let me snipe that. No, they're not going to be doing that. They're going to be sniping Kudas that are half price or 25% of their value. So while you may get good foot traffic and some sales, it's probably only going to be on things that are vastly undervalued. That's an important concept to keep in mind. Interestingly, too, a lot of people will utilize the Thieves' Refuges to create trade guilds. Now, to me, a trade guild's whole purpose is to function and hold a good trader slot for a long period of time to establish itself as a reputable seller. It's like getting into a mall, right? You want to sit in that mall, you pray the mall doesn't go bankrupt, and you pray you don't go bankrupt. And actually starting in a refuge slot is a terrible idea, because if we're going to use our mall example, this is the equivalent of you setting up a stand all the way on the far end of the parking lot in the mall, hoping that you'll generate enough revenue to buy a slot in the mall. Do not go into a Thieves' Refuge with the intention to slowly convert your guild into a trading guild, because it sets a bad precedent for people, and you're not going to attract people that are either going to be paying dues, which we'll talk about here shortly. You're not going to be attracting a lot of people who are going to be entering into things like raffles, 50-50 splits, because those are another way that guilds can generate a lot of value. Things like raffles and other such things, you're not going to be generating a lot of income. And in fact, you're going to be losing tons of income on these traders. Because yes, I will give you a general idea of how much people bid on these traders. If it gets me canceled, please just like the video and subscribe. But people spend a few 100,000 gold each week on these vendors. And let's just say people are spending 200,000 gold on these refuges. Over a year, that's 11.2 million gold just being taken away from you, and you're not going to generate anywhere near that amount. What if your total goal instead is to become a trade guild? You want to find a semi-good spot in a good place, maybe not somewhere prime like Wayrest, Eldenroot, Vivec City, but think places like Craglorn, think places like Arderon, think places like Glenumbra, places that have foot traffic, but not enough foot traffic to where you're going to be bankrupted while you're trying to build up your player base, while you're making sure you get active players that are paying dues to you. You really want to make sure that you're building yourself up, but you're also attracting the right audience immediately, because people who usually join guilds with the sole intention of using a refuge is they're brand new players who are listing up things at 25% of their value, which you don't want to have tons of those players because they're not going to generate you a lot of income. They generally can't afford dues, and they're listing things up, so you're not even getting a good house cut on those items. And I want to use 5-10-inch trading as my example because they're actually in Eldenroot. Sometimes they get into Mournhold, but you can see here a perfect example of everything that they're doing to generate gold to afford these guild trader locations. For example, they raised 40 million gold just through a gold raffle. So essentially, they've utilized people's donations, put them into a raffle, and then gave away different rewards based on that. They do different events and games, and then they have actually dues that you have to pay. You have to make sure that you put in your money by a specific time, 15,000 weekly gold, and you have to make sure that you pay it by a specific time. Some guilds do specific times. Sometimes they want you to have it paid by Tuesday. That way all of the revenue is there for Tuesday. Other times they're a little more flexible, such as Ashes of the Red Mountain, which is just, make sure that you have your money raised. But they also, another perfect example, they're raising money right now through a gold 50-50 split. So you can see that they've even done it to where there's more winners, where first place gets 30%, second place gets 20%, and their dues are 20,000 a week. Pay ahead is okay, and they don't have any sort of pay by Tuesday or any other specific rules. So keep all of these factors in mind, because as a guild trader, if you're trying to make sure that you have all your money by Tuesday, it could be a good rule. Everybody's got to pay by either Tuesday or Monday. But also, too, it does stress people out. If they come back, they miss their dates, you may also have a more higher turnover for your traders and with your player base if you're doing that. So those are just some things that I would warn you of if you're starting to make yourself a dues paid weekly trader. And another important concept that we need to discuss is that people think that a lot of guilds are running at a profit. But there's a very simple reason that that's not true in most cases. Now let's talk about why that is. Well, to put it simply, every single one of these guilds is operating in a high-tier guild trader. And there are many more guilds that are trying to consistently knock them off that pedestal. And the interesting thing, too, is the guilds that are trying to knock them off of that pedestal, they've also got weekly dues. They've also got millionaire owners that are constantly pumping in cash to make sure that they can get that best slot. So how exactly does that work then? Well, this is where the hidden PvP aspect of this all comes in. And interestingly enough, we're going to use a real-world example of DoorDash, Uber Eats, and even Grubhub here. You can see that they're all actually running at a loss. Even during COVID, when they should have made the most amount of money, they were running at a loss. And why is that? And it's because they're constantly running promotions, trying to bankrupt the other one. They're trying to take the drivers from the other individuals. And they're constantly trying to do little backhanded things to make sure that they're going to be the number one, the most popular food delivery app. And if you take out the food component of that example, what's different? And the answer is, really, there's not a whole lot, except you can only have one Mournhold slot. You can only have one guild trader per guild. But the concept remains the same. You want to have a monopoly on your guild trader slot because here's the important thing, right? Let's say this specific trader, Razgul in Mournhold, right? Let's say the guild owner bid 20 million on that weekly bid, and the second highest one was only 10 million. That essentially means that 9,999,999 gold was wasted by that guild because you never truly know what other people are bidding. So it creates this weird pseudo PvP where the fighting takes place with the money that you generate from these guilds. And because of that, it has created this sly sense of PvP that occurs each week because you can still have multiple guilds and you can use alt accounts to try to knock people off, because if people start consistently losing their Mournhold trader, well, you might be in a sticky situation where people are not going to join your guild, they're not going to pay dues anymore. Oftentimes, too, what'll happen is that if a Mournhold trader loses their slot, they will then tell everybody, for a whole week you don't have to pay, or maybe it's a lesser amount, because essentially now everybody in that guild is now losing business, and who could they potentially turn to if they want to have a more stable place to sell their items? They potentially could join the guild that knocked them off, because there's only so many Mournhold traders, and some of them do work together to have these pseudo-cooperative agreements where they don't bid on each other and whatnot, and it creates this alliance-type combat that really does occur with tens of millions of gold, if not hundreds of millions of gold, depending on if you're playing on PC or not. And the reason that people don't profit off of these guilds is actually relatively straightforward. If I could make a guild trader and run a Mournhold trader and make tens of millions of gold a week, why wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't you do that? All you need to do is just bid effectively every Tuesday, and you could make tens of millions of gold. It'd be the easiest gig ever. The problem is it doesn't work like that, because as inflation goes up, the bids go up. Even during deflated times, the bids continue to stay up because everybody wants to be a Mournhold trader. Everybody wants to maintain that consistency, and there's always more people that want to be in places like Mournhold than there are people that are actively in Mournhold. And that's what creates this discrepancy, and that's what creates this consistently running at a loss. And as people continue to run at a loss, nobody's going to make money off of it, and they have to do things like you're seeing gold splits, raffles, community events, and that's where really the money is generated, or if the leaders themselves are generating the revenue themselves, because quite often the leaders of these guilds are multimillionaires, they have tons of gold, and they'll continue to pump gold into their guild. That way they continue to maintain that level of stability throughout that time period. And as we go through, I want to give some examples of other trading guilds, but let's also talk about the concept that I was telling members, 20k weekly dues. They also have competition with places like Island of Blades, Mournhold Trader, but you can see guild trader location right now is in Alinor. They only have 445 active members. You have to remember that you have lost now 55 members worth of weekly 20,000 gold. That's an important distinction to make. That's why you can really see how quickly and downturn that things can go if you get kicked out of your primary guild trader slot. So what would I do if I wanted to make a formal trading guild? Well, the first thing I would do is raise a good chunk of gold. If you're on console, I would say raise 10 million gold. If you're on PC, I would say raise 50 million gold. Second thing I would do is I would get a group of people together to run that guild. People who were generally rich or played the game or actively utilized traders to high efficiency, because we want to use our guild trader to generate revenue, because that will then, a little bit will come back to us. You're not going to be able to rely on sales. And then the third thing I would do is then focus on an area that I wanted to be in. Now let's quickly talk about locations. If you're starting out as a trading guild, I actually think Alinor is not a bad place to go. It's got foot traffic, but it's also a DLC area. So not only do you have a little bit of access to some good foot traffic, but you're not spending tens of millions of gold. You're still going to have to spend a handful of millions of gold each week, but it will give you a better starting point where you and your guild mates can either decide if you want to have people pay weekly dues, if you want to start getting raffles and gold splits set up. If you're going to start doing that, Alinor is a pretty good place to start at. Another decent place is inside of Glenumbra, which is the Daggerfall's main tutorial city for new players. A lot of foot traffic in these starter areas, and this also goes for Stone Falls and Arteron as well. These are two other really good areas that I would consider going to as well. So your 3 starter areas in Alinor, I think, are probably your best bets. There's another thing that you can do that's a little bit funnier if you wanted to try to get into this, but you wanted to kind of dip your toes in. And that is actually a very interesting phenomenon that occurs if nobody bids in a Guild Trader location. You can actually hire them just for 10,000 gold. You can see here a past week's game clip of me just going through and buying a Guild Trader for the minimum bid, which is 10,000 gold. That is another really good way that people do it because 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, most people are at work, especially on NA servers. You can go and check every single area around the map and see if there's any unhired Guild Traders because you can only place 10 total bids. And there's not a whole lot of, cooperation that occurs, especially for these Guild Trader slots that exist at not the prime locations. You're thinking like those mid-tier to low-tier locations, it's a complete crapshoot as to which ones get bid on. And oftentimes, there's tons of refuges each week that you can snag for free. There's even some good overland ones. You saw we got Craglorn. Certainly can't complain about that. That's probably easily in the top 7 best Guild Trader stall locations, maybe even the top 5, depending on what console you're playing on. So that's another way that you can tackle this. But the key thing is just know that you're going to be spending quite a bit of gold each week to kind of maintain this status. And if you're going to be a leader of a trading guild, you're going to want a lot of people to help you. You're going to want to be set up with a group of people who can help you run things like events that can raise money. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be running at a loss more than likely. But you'll be able to recoup those losses by raffles, by guild events, and hopefully if you do dues, but dues are not going to cover generally as much as you're going to be making, because if you are utilizing dues to generate your revenue, well, so is probably everybody else in that area. And if you're in a dues situation, there's also going to be a higher expectation for you to maintain a good trader, which means that you're going to probably be overbidding because you don't want to see like the example we saw earlier, where you're in a Mournhold trader, you've got 500 people, and then you lose it, and now you've lost 50 people, which is 50 people's worth of weekly dues, and it also adds to the additional stress that you're under. So running and operating a trading guild can be very stressful because, in my opinion, it's the craziest form of hidden PvP that exists. The trading espionage, the deals that goes on, the leaking of how much people are bidding, where are they bidding, all of this stuff occurs. And it all goes on in the background. I've seen some of it, and I can say that it's definitely very interesting. I don't want to give too much information. I don't want to see the laser pointer reappear between my eyes again. So this is where I will leave you. If you guys have additional questions, please put them in the comments below. This was actually a video that was requested by you guys. You guys wanted to know how to create trade guilds, how exactly do the Guild Trader bidding system work. And I hope that this was helpful for you guys. If you guys want specifics, put them in the comments below. I'll do my best to respond. As always, though, it's best if you put any questions that you want a direct response to in Discord as well, because then we can also start a dialogue with multiple players. So if you have questions, throw them there or throw them in the comments below. And we will talk next about our 3 giveaway drawings, because all you need to do to enter is be subscribed. Just by being subscribed, you are entered automatically. You can also get 2 additional entries to that first drawing by following on Twitch and Twitter. Actually, last month's winner was a Twitter follower, so feel free to follow. Link in the bio, in the description. Second thing is just make sure that you leave comments below. Every single comment helps. And if you want to slap a like on the video as a bonus, feel free to go ahead. I can't track who likes the videos, unfortunately, because that would probably be better for the algorithm anyway than a comment, but whatever. No bueno. And the third thing is a hidden word be flashed upon the screen. If you're the first person to comment that word, you will win. I just want to thank you guys one last time. This is a bit of a longer video, so let me know what you guys do think in the comments. If you guys give me a little feedback, if these longer form topics are helpful, if they're a bit too rambly, just let me know, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jakeclips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.